Greetings and welcome to Chapter 1, Sampling and Data. Specifically, we're going to focus on the first section, definitions of statistics, probability, and key terms. With any course, it's very important that we talk the same language, and if there are specialized phrases or words, we really need to get on the same level very quickly. Your gut instinct might be to rush through, but don't. Take your time. Become familiar with the words and their definitions before moving on. When we deal with statistics, we will deal a lot with samples. Now you might be asking, well, why don't we just deal with population? Well, in short, populations can get large very quickly depending on how we describe that population. Let me take an example of the population of crows. Crows are just those kind of biggish black birds. They're pretty smart. When I looked online to see how many crows there are in just North America, all I got was abundant. I didn't even get a number. I didn't get 4 million, 5 million. I just got abundant. That doesn't tell me much of anything. And if I wanted to figure out how many crows in North America have a particular bird disease, I would have to capture every single one of those quote-unquote abundant number of crows, test them to see if they have the disease, and then let them go. It costs so much money to be able to do that. It's just impossible. So what we would do is maybe we'd gather a sample of those birds, let's say 127 of them. We'd run tests on 127 birds, and we might be able to make a conclusion using those 127 birds to say, oh, 30% of birds in the general population probably have the disease. We can make a conjecture from the sample to the population. In this class, we're going to study two primary branches of statistics, descriptive and inferential. Descriptive statistics involves organization and summarization of data. So we have raw data, just the numbers, and to help it make sense to other folks, we're going to display it visually in charts like bar charts or pie charts or even box plots. Then we have inferential statistics, which involves taking a sample, getting information from that sample, and using that information to draw conclusions about population. One of the other tools that we'll use in statistics is called probability, the likelihood of something happening. Here's a second set of vocabulary words to go through. Again, take your time, take notes if you need to. When you're ready, click on Continue. Now that you've had a few minutes to run through some of our key words, let's see if you can decipher those key words in a particular example. We want to know the mean amount of money first-year college students spend at ABC College on school supplies that do not include books. We randomly surveyed 100 first-year students at the college. 3 of those students spent $150, $200, and $225 respectively. Let's figure out what the population is. Now going back to the problem, we want to know the average amount of money first-year college students spend at ABC College. So our population is going to be all first-year students attending ABC College. Now let's figure out what our sample is. Our sample always has to do with who we asked, who we surveyed. So our sample is the 100 surveyed first-year students who attend ABC College. A parameter always goes along with the population. So the parameter is going to be the mean amount of money spent, excluding books, by first-year students at ABC College this term. So all of first-year students, their mean amount of money spent, excluding books. Now, what is the statistic for this particular study? The statistic goes along with the survey, in other words, the sample. And therefore, the mean amount of money spent, excluding textbooks, by first-year college student within the sample would be a statistic. The variable could be, now there's a lot of ways we can word this, but it could be the amount of money spent, excluding the textbooks, by one first-year student. So we would let that be an X, because that amount of money will change depending on the first-year student that we ask. And then our data is the particular dollar amount spent, and in this case we were given 3 examples. So the data would be $150, $200, and $225. Let's work through another example. An insurance company would like to determine the proportion of all medical doctors who have been involved in one or more malpractice lawsuits. The company selects 500 doctors at random from a professional directory and then determines the number in that sample who have been involved in a malpractice suit. So the population can be a couple of things. First, it could be all medical doctors. But because we're picking our doctors at random from a professional directory, let's just say our population for this example is all medical doctors listed in the professional directory. The sample are those 500 doctors selected at random. The parameter goes along with the population, and it's going to be the proportion of the medical doctors who have been involved in a malpractice lawsuit. The statistic is so similar to the parameter. The only difference is that it deals with the sample and not the whole population. So the statistic is the proportion of medical doctors who have been involved in one or more malpractice lawsuits in the sample. The variable here is that thing that changes, which would be the number of medical doctors who have been involved in the malpractice suit. So depending on who we chose for the sample, that number of medical doctors who have been involved in malpractice lawsuits, that's going to change depending on who participates in the sample, so that's our variable. The data we gather is either going to be a yes or no. Were they involved in a malpractice lawsuit, or no, were they not? You've reached the end of this lesson.